So I wanted to mention where this came from. The origin of the name of this talk actually came from a post on Stack Overflow. Look at the date. This is actually 9 days before I joined, and I was a beta user. And so the question is, have you become addicted to Stack Overflow? And they're worried about productivity. They're worried about their own personal productivity because maybe I'm falling down on the job by participating on Stack Overflow. And we know the end of the story because 5 years later, and after 10 million questions, and not 7 years later, people come and tell us this is very valuable. So as a corporate group, this has been extremely valuable. I can't tell you how to manage your own personal productivity. This question was closed and deleted long ago. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about is psychologists call the law of effect. And, it's really very simple. The name is actually more complicated than it sounds. If you do something and it makes you happy, you're going to do more of it. And if you do something and it makes you annoyed or frustrated or somehow unhappy, you're just going to stop doing it altogether. So you need a big degree to name this thing, but the actual understanding what it is really not that hard. I think Freud was a cat person, by the way. So let me give you some examples. People love badges. And you can see here that we had reviews for a while, but we didn't have any badges behind it. And so people did the reviews. And so all the things I'm going to talk about, these are things that people like doing naturally. And when you give them an incentive beyond that, a badge, for instance, they'll just do more of it. And I know for myself, I really enjoyed answering questions about Perl long before Stack Overflow came along. I had to do it on Usenet. And people did it on forums, and people did it in mailing lists, and there's other venues. What Stack Overflow has done is it's added more things to it to make us enjoy doing it even more and answer more questions and help each other out. Here's the opposite. People don't like losing things, loss aversion. Studies have shown that loss aversion is a very powerful force, probably stronger than greed. So one of the things that was built into the system was downvotes cost people that receive them reputation, and they also, to encourage people to avoid downvoting indiscriminately, it also costs the person who downvotes one reputation. What we found was that people were really happy to downvote answers. If you see a wrong answer, or if the ordering of the answer on the page is wrong, you think it's wrong, you're happy to spend that, it's worth that to you, but they didn't want to spend that cost on questions. On Stack Overflow, we know that old adage, there's no such thing as a bad question, that's really not true. We have lots of bad questions, I can show you them, or I can't unless you have, you can see deleted questions. But we wanted more information about the difference between a question that gets 0 votes, a score of 0, and is kind of okay and not terrible, and questions that are really bad and should be downvoted. And people weren't giving us that feedback until we removed the cost of downvoting questions alone. And so you can see when you remove the cost, suddenly it reverses the equation, and people start downvoting questions quite a bit. So in the last 100 years or so, psychologists have been testing their theories on animals. And the sort of revolutionary thing that they've discovered is that when they test something on an animal, a lot of times that truth also holds true for us. We don't like to think about that. We like to think we have free will. And the truth is, there's kind of a lot of illusion of that. We're profoundly affected by our environment. So here's the Skinner box. The light comes on. The rat doesn't know what that means, but eventually it accidentally presses the lever. And if it presses the lever after the light comes on, it gets a little reward, usually like a food pellet. And so they learn how to do that. They learn very quickly, and they will repeat that action over and over and over and over again. If you're familiar with our site, this is a Skinner box that affects me very profoundly. I had a difficult time taking that screenshot because there's a 2 and a 143, and I desperately wanted to know what was behind those. I mean, The 2 was either a comment or an answer, some sort of feedback. And our sites are really great. We have intelligent people. So I knew it would be interesting. And 143, that's a lot of reputation across the network. And I happen to remember what this one was, but at the time I was like, wow, is this from all one post? And it was. It was really exciting when I actually finished taking the screenshot and was able to press that button, just like the lab rat. It's important to note that we don't show the reputation if it goes down. We only show it when it goes up. We can't really control for comments and answers, but since they're so good normally, there's this powerful incentive to continually pressing that the notification at the top bar. All right, this is a cheap shot, I know. So here's the problem with Quora. I don't use it, and so Quora has to make a guess about what I might like, and they know who my friends are, and they make some good guesses. They make some darn good guesses, but I'm afraid they're not perfect. And too many times I've pressed the button, and my idiot friend who's answering some dumb question that I really don't care about, and I've just stopped caring about Quora notifications, which, I don't know, maybe it's unfortunate. So this gets into the concept of scarcity. Scarcity is when you want to motivate people by giving them something that makes them happy, but you don't have enough of that thing. So Quora didn't have enough information to make me happy. And so how do you approach that? Well, Dr. Skinner, who invented the Skinner box, he actually researched it by very carefully providing different sorts of schedules of reinforcement to that rat in the Skinner box. And we can talk about those, but I won't, because there's only one that really matters, that makes any difference. And that's basically the slot machine. So you'll hear this analogy a lot. The random payout just is so much more effective. And you think about it, what are you doing when you put $1 into, however much you put in slot machines these days? If you put $1 in, you're expecting to get back something less, like 90 cents maybe. If the slot machine ever started spitting out exactly 90 cents, you would stop playing it. But the reason you play it is because most of the time it gives you nothing. Sometimes it gives you a small return, a little bit of a winning, and there's that hope, and you know that it happens once in a while that you'll get a giant jackpot. You'll get thousands of dollars back. And that hope is what's driving you to keep pulling the lever. And we have that same thing on Stack Overflow. I picked a nice extreme example here. This is someone who asked one question, and wouldn't you know it, that one question got 4,000 upvotes. And I'll tell you the truth. I read the question. It's not that great. And so this person got almost twice my reputation. I worked hard for years asking and answering lots of questions. So am I bitter about this? Okay, I am a little bitter. But I'll tell you what, when I ask a question on the site, when I answer a question on the site, a little tiny part of me is thinking, I could be this guy. My next question could get such an amazing answer that I get 4,000, well, unlikely now, but I could get lots of upvotes, or my answer could be so amazing, people could love it so much that I get a bunch of upvotes. And this is actually pretty powerful, at least for me. I don't know about other people. Here's something also I like. This is me shooting someone in the face with an incendiary round, and they're burning to death. When I say that, it sounds kind of wrong, and it is, but in the context of Borderlands, it's fun, right? How many people play Borderlands? Okay. So I won't go into all that much detail about it, but the thing that really makes it fun, I mean, this is probably like a dozen hours of fun, but I've played 100 hours, and the reason is because there's all these systems that are layered on top to keep track of your progress through the game. So you'll start it just before you go to bed, maybe an hour before bed, and your wife goes up, and you're still playing, and you get this great gun, and you realize that you can go to this new place and be more effective, and you level up, and you open up some more missions, and you get some more places that you get to go to, and your son taps you on the shoulder and says, "Can I go to school now?" Because it's in the morning, which has actually happened to me. This is also something that happened to me. Well, not this exact thing, but But the fun of playing the game of Stack Overflow and the Stack Exchange sites, sometimes it'll keep you up. You'll just answer a question, you just can't wait to see the response, and you'll work some more, and there'll be some badge you want to pursue. And we've started working to make these things more visible, just pulling them out of the system. This is the new profile page. And so there's some really great stuff that we're doing to sort of encourage people to see their progress and track what they're already doing. That's really neat. This is examples of something that's called the token economy. I don't know how well that turned out. This is a picture. It's on my bathroom wall. I have twins. They're 2.5. And so this is they're going to the bathroom chart. They're potty training. And they get little stickers when they successfully do these little tasks. And the token economy has three pieces. The first is there's a very rigid way of earning the tokens. So you have to do it, exactly the thing that you're supposed to do to earn it. Second, the tokens themselves, they don't have to be valuable. In fact, in a lot of ways, it's better if they have no value outside of the system. Cheap stickers are actually really good. And then the third thing, you have to be able to display them. So you have to be able to show your progress to other members of the site or the community or your potty training family. On the sites, we have votes, and we have reputation, and to a lesser extent, privileges. And these are perfect tokens because theoretically, at least, the votes and the reputation don't have any meaning outside of the system. It's extremely regimented, a lot better than I do with my children because the computer is doing it for us. And finally, you show it off. If you look on the site, it's everywhere. You see your reputation, you see your badges. This is a really important thing. You can show off your good questions and answers, and you can see the score. It's right there. So this is actually another powerful motivation. This is my older son, who's a Boy Scout, and if you look on his sash, he's got these 5 little circles. Those are merit badges, and you get merit badges for doing all sorts of things. So you think of it as like, oh, it's hiking and fishing and camping. Well, that's true, but you can also do things. He's got a photography one. He's excited about the programming one. That's a fairly new one. So they actually have things for kids who are interested in the indoors and not just the outdoors. And you have to have there's 130 of these things because you have to be able to cover all sorts of different personalities. Different people, believe it or not, are made happy by different things. So my son is different than his friends who like to, go outdoors more. Tag badges kind of do that for us, especially on Stack Overflow. I'm going to try to pronounce his name as Martien, I think, and this is on his profile. He is very proud of not only the badges that he got, but that he was the first to get these because they show real expertise in Python. He's got some Zoop, some other things that he's proud of. And when we rolled out the new profile, we had ways of tracking various things, and one of the things we tracked was your privileges. And when you maxed out the privileges, what do you show then? Well, we thought, well, let's throw in tag badges. We'll let you track your progress on tag badges. It turns out people on Meta were like, wait a minute, I want to track my tag badges before I max out my privileges. And so this is actually something that people push back on us. This is so important to some people. All right, so I've talked about the plus, the positive things about token economy and behavioral psychology. It doesn't solve everything. Trolls, you just have to ignore them. They just want attention, and so don't even give them that feedback, which is what they want. It's part of the game to get feedback, and so it's kind of hard to design things to limit the amount of feedback they get back. That came out weird. We have time suspensions, which actually work great in really obvious trolling situations. But we also have this complicated self-promotion policy, and it's nuanced, it's difficult. Someone has to look at it and sort of figure out, is this person an expert in this technology, and he just happens to be working on the technology himself, and he's recommending it because it really is the best answer? Or is he just interested in promoting his, even an open source project or the little thing he's trying to sell? This is actually a difficult problem, and I don't think we can solve it with a system. If you can't read the caption, it says, "Training by laboratory workers has overcome the Puma's fear of firearms." Lot of problems with this. One is that's not a Puma. I'm about 90% sure it's a cheetah, but that's not the point. Forget that. The point is, why in the world are you training whatever large cat that is, to fire a cannon? What were these people thinking? Is there like an army of large cats? I don't know. So we have problems like that too on our sites, and I call it the overtraining. Well, I should say Robert calls it the overtraining problem, where you focused on something and you forget about the end goal. We had a close reason called too localized, and it's a great idea. The idea is if it's only helpful to one person ever, then we don't really want to support that question. So like a canonical example might be, are my shoes tied? Which is not very helpful because, number one, I'm the only person who will ever benefit, and number two, I don't have laces on my shoes. So, yeah, we don't want to support those sort of questions. The trouble is, people have a very difficult time identifying when a question will only be useful to one person ever. So you'll sometimes see questions that are closed as too localized that have thousands of views. Well, it can't possibly be the case that it didn't help anybody. And then the other problem is we'd have to close the travel site because it's all too localized. This is a thing. During World War II, Dr. Skinner was actually trying to teach pigeons to guide missiles. And it might have worked too, except unfortunately they didn't invest in it. They had some other ideas, like just dropping tons and tons of bombs, and the A-bomb. So those things, I don't know, money poorly spent, I think, unless you're a pigeon fan. But it didn't work because there wasn't enough investment in this one idea. It didn't follow all the way through to completion. And we have a system like that that I'm going to call out, tag synonyms. I drew this little flow chart. This is how it works. If you notice a tag synonym is needed, and if you have 2.5K rep, and if you have a tag score of greater than 5, and don't ask me how you calculate a tag score, then you have to wait for 4 other people who also have these very same conditions. And if none of those work, or if you just give up, just go to a moderator. So we see a lot of these things on meta or in flags. And there's nothing wrong with having a system like this, but there is something wrong if you have a system that doesn't work because you didn't make the investment to complete it. This is sort of what David was talking about with the ship it and forget it problem, in a little ways. We have a secret weapon. It's our moderators. It's human beings who actually step in and fix problems with our systems. And Jay likes to talk about how we pay our moderators in hats. But that's not really true. What we're paying them is respect. So they get a little diamond next to their name. They get tons of privileges. They get the ability to solve any problem on the site, very nearly any problem on the site. And they become leaders in the community, and that's the thing that we give them. They are above the game. They have transcended the game altogether, and so that's what we end up giving them. And in return, they will give anything, and it's not for us, it's for the community. It's for the people that they care about, the topic that they care about, the site that they care about. They will invest crazy hours. And I know, because I was a moderator before I was hired. And so don't stop paying me. But as soon as I got paid, the relationship changed. And I stopped doing it for the love of the community, of the site. I started doing it a little bit for the paycheck. And it's impossible to separate that because once you change the way that people are motivated, it also changes their relationship to the site, to the community. I love our moderators, so Go shake the hand of a moderator or former moderator. All right, I'm done. I don't know how much time I have left, if there's any time for questions.
6 minutes for questions.
6 minutes. Oh, man, I went faster than I thought. As my friend Adriana, the truth of the matter is I love Colby, so it's absolutely true. Any questions? Comments?